Hello, it's time for a recap once again here at ECS, day 10 to 12. So lots of stuff has happened. Just looking at my notes, it's rather overwhelming. But we'll get started with Europe. First of all, I guess we can start at the top. FaZe, they finally dropped their first map, James, to Envious, who they nearly 16-0'd FaZe. FaZe narrowly avoided that situation, but that was a bit of a shocker.
Yeah, very narrowly avoided. It was amusing to retweet the tweets afterwards. Nico had a lot of pressure to get the smoke kill to stop the 16-0 from happening. But yeah, I think it shows that FaZe do have a weakness against a team with strong strategy, which is what Envy demonstrates.
And speaking of which, strong strategy, well, I'm not sure if it necessarily applies, but if we're looking at all of the Swedish matchups that we had, it was just madness. Fnatic wins 2-0 over Godsent and NIP. Godsent, that matchup was absolutely insane, and NIP, it looked again sort of like, to me, like Fnatic would end up losing, but they just sort of, I don't know, the NIP lost steam. Yeah,
and NIP, if you look at a lot of their recent matches, they have had opportunities to win, but something has gone wrong and it just hasn't worked out for them. There was a pivotal late smoke grenade when Fnatic didn't have all the money in the world, which changed the tide for them on Overpass, and then the second map was more dominant for Fnatic, so they do keep a clean sheet. Top of the table, I believe, and yeah, doing well.
And again, speaking of FaZe and clean sheets, I mean, they had their sheet further tarnished by Mousesports.
Soiled.
And Mousesports, they won Inferno, and I think for me, again, that was a bit surprising. I'm not sure if it's just a bit of a rough week for FaZe, but Mousesports, obviously, it's early days for them, so this was a massive result, and they did it in really confident fashion, which was quite impressive.
Yeah, it's the first few games for Mousesports. We have some more coming from them soon, but it's a great start for them taking the map off FaZe.
Well then, moving to North America, Optic managed to survive their encounter with Liquid, which seems to be a tough thing to do lately. And I think it was with a show of great preparation. Like, I looked at their T size and I was actually genuinely impressed. After, you know, we all said in the pre-game, it's hard to know really what to expect from Optic, and it's some of their first games as well. And so to get that win over Liquid is pretty impressive too. Yeah,
they got a 2-0, and all they could do is improve from where they've started, basically, and they are showing significant improvement, so you wonder how far they can go. I think it could have been even stronger for them. Some mistakes were made, which is a good thing in the sense that it's still early on, so they can fix those and pack an even more powerful punch in the North American region. Yeah, and
you know, speaking of you know, powerful punches and heavy hitters, SK, they didn't have the best time against Liquid, unfortunately for them, losing out against them 2-0, and again, a bit of a surprising matchup, a bit of a crazy matchup. They were both teams were playing from LAN, and also SK were playing with KTEX, playing with Stand-in. Their situation is getting a bit weird at the moment. They've got Bolts, who's playing for them at the tournament at the LAN, but then of course Bolts is not on the lineup for ECS. So then, and they're not using Phelps, so they had to find KTEX. And against Liquid, it was a bit too much to deal with, I think.
Yeah, it's awkward for them. They're in Europe, otherwise they would be using Phelps. They can't use Bolts because Bolts is on the Immortals roster, which is part of ECS. So it's just a nature of the beast. But I'm sure they'll bounce back pretty quickly in their next matches.
And Immortals, team that's about bouncing back. I'm not sure, you know, how far they can bounce back to their previous form. Obviously, you know, reaching the finals of a major, but obviously it was very unfortunate for them. You know, their team essentially imploded. They have loads of lineup issues, and they're trying to solve it. They're playing with the coach Zach every game basically, and you know, Bolts is off, you know, gallivanting around Europe, playing for SK. So they've had a hard time, but they're actually starting to show some results. We saw them moving away from Cobblestone, which seemed to be a pick, which we were always like, oh god, please move away from Cobblestone. Then they started choosing Overpass, and it's working out. Yeah,
they've won, I think, 3 matches now, and that's more than I think you can expect based on the earlier performances from them. The fact they're playing with 4 players and coach Zach. So, I mean, they're in a position where they might actually avoid the relegation battle, depending on how things continue for them, and that would be a massive victory for them in their current state.
Absolutely, and like the last, I think, notable thing for me with the North American region is just that Luminosity, they're having their ups and downs, but after that initial week of promise where we're kind of blown away by the progress they've made, they're still putting in the results. We saw an Inferno victory against Cloud9, which was pretty tight, actually. Cloud9 sort of struggling, not just against them on Inferno, but also against NRG. So maybe there's a trend here with Inferno and Cloud9, but that's besides the point. I'm still looking forward to seeing more Luminosity games. They can still keep it up, I think.
Yeah, the Luminosity fanboys. We're still here, and we're ready for the next matches. Yeah, it's a slightly bumpy ride, but it's still a lot better than we saw in previous seasons, and that does excite us.
All right, and that is everything for this 3-day recap. So much happening. Make sure you join in on the action and tune into the broadcast. We'll catch you for the next one.